Hello and welcome to this edition of Halcyon. My name's Lorne and I will be your host for this episode. It's been a while since I did one of these things. I haven't really had a lot to talk about, to be perfectly frank. It's been one of those periods where I've been focusing on other things. The need to do an audio style free flow video has not really been there. So it's been interesting not really having a lot to talk about. But I've been wrestling with wanting to do one of these things for a few days, mainly because I've been working on other stuff for the channel that is going to take the place of the videos that you've been seeing on a weekly basis for the last few months. So I've pre-made a bunch of blinks up until the back end of May, I believe. And they're the easier videos to make, but they're also the videos that I think are the kind of the worst, in the sense that they don't really offer people anything. They offer people an opinion, and there's an old saying that opinions are like arseholes, everyone has one, and not necessarily you want to see or hear what comes out of it. So I figured I'd re-evaluate what I wanted to do with Halcyon, and I arrived at an inevitable conclusion, which is to go back to doing the things that people told me not to do in the very beginning. Why? Well, for two reasons. Number one, I miss the creative process and making stuff more than I do the reaction. So going back and doing them the way I used to do them, so to compare and contrast for people that maybe make content in a different way to me, or you don't make content, the pressure is to keep up. The pressure is to constantly be making something, to constantly be releasing something, to be constantly on the cusp of whatever's going on, or to be targeting it to an audience or whatever. And I found that because the reaction wasn't comparable to other people, that I would be going in different directions and losing focus on what the point of doing YouTube in the first place was, which is I wanted to make something on the same level or better to what I was seeing in my own eyes. I didn't want to make something to compete with what everyone else was doing in the same vein. And it took a couple of conversations with a good buddy of mine. It took some soul searching on my part. But finally I arrived at the conclusion I just want to make Halcyons. Now what does that mean? Well, if for people that have watched my channel long enough, you'll know that there's fucking everything on there. There's sports stuff, there's the podcasts as they used to be known, and they're not going to be known because they're not on iTunes or anything, so they can't be an iPodcast because that's where the term comes from. Hence why I didn't introduce this show as a podcast, because going forward that's not what they're going to be known as, because they're fucking not. It's a buzzword. Don't like buzzwords no more. But you've got the blinks, you've got the weekly shows, you've got the Razor reviews, and you've got the whatevers. And people would constantly be asking me, so what's the difference? Which mystified me, because I remember inventing these things to try and cater to the very people that were asking me this question. And it finally hit me in a moment of clarity that I'd kind of lost my identity in the pursuit of trying to satiate what I thought people wanted from content. And then you find that you find that you're chasing your tail a little bit, and especially when you're chasing your tail trying to satiate the same people who have an appetite for something that you already deem bad quality, then it kind of misses the bar. So when I first started making videos, I remember very distinctly picking a topic that I had a lot of passion for, that I knew a decent enough about, but needed to research more, maybe hadn't played or watched or whatever it was for a while, to really get a narrative and a point, but also back up that point with information and tidbits of things that maybe the viewer wouldn't have known. So at least they walk away with something. And I think a lot of times you need to remember that to make that connection with the audience somehow, some way. And in trying to satiate the needs of people, I've tried to compete with other content creators who do it way better than me. So I need to think about what plays to my strengths. And that's why Halcyon was, that's how I imagined Halcyon in the first place. I imagined it as a long format, predominantly information-based show about things I was passionate about, mainly gaming, but then I can also critique movies and television shows and social matters, but it needed to be done in a certain way. And quite frankly, it was laziness on my part. The Blink shows, which are the ones that you're seeing predominantly on my channel these days, are super easy to make. I mean, I'm not going to lie, they involve me sitting in front of a green screen and just talking for 10 minutes, and I edit out the bits in between, any mistakes, censor out the swearing, add a couple of lines for context, and that's about it. It's not the hardest thing in the world because I'm just rattling whatever's fresh in my mind on the subject, which is what a lot of people do these days. They react and they give opinions, and that's great. You know, a lot of people trust those opinions because they sync them to themselves. But when you don't have a following that understands your viewpoints and your biases from the get-go, they can't really take what you're saying on board. And I find this in the conversations that I have with people, because what I've taken to doing is working on these things at work. Now, before anyone gets too jittery, I'm talking about on my lunch breaks. I have an hour lunch break every single day. Not recently, been working overtime. Different story, touch on another time. But I use that hour lunch break constructively by working on scripts and doing research and sampling things like music and text and video and things of that nature. And you always get the question, so what are you doing? I'm working on my YouTube channel. Oh really? What do you do? And I'm always confronted with the same answer, which is kind of everything. And the fact that I can't give a definitive answer, it really woke me up to the fact that, when's the last time you made a good Halcyon show? Like, forget everything else, forget the Blinks, forget whatever. No one even really understands why they're called what they're called. The same conversations with my buddy here, I like the same thing. Why is it called Blink? Why is it called Razor Review? Well, because I thought da-da-da-da. Well, it doesn't really do that, does it? No, you're right. I should just focus my ideas into the one idea that I had in the first place. So I thought, and I went, I haven't made a good Halcyon since my Bioshock review, I think. That was the last good one I did. The Skyrim one was okay. The Knights of the Old Republic one was okay, but I think I missed the mark on a lot of the points there because the script wasn't very good. The Andromeda one, I don't think I had a script for at all. I think I just completed it and just did it like a blink. And that made me think, if I don't have any desire to watch those videos again, how can I expect anyone else to? Whereas the Mass Effect one, I really love that video, and that's tooting my own horn to an extent that I never thought I would, but that and the FIFA retrospective, I can tell the difference. I can see it in the way I present, in the way that I come across, in the way the information is presented, how it's presented, the structure of the show. It's so much better. And I find that I want to do that more. But it requires a certain level of effort and depth that you just can't do if you're working to a time frame. So I made a decision about a month ago, in fact. I want to work on shows until they're ready, until they're right, until they're done, rather than cranking them out and saying, that'll do, that'll do. And I found that I was doing that a lot. The Blinks were the start of that. The podcasts, as they were originally known, they were a continuation of that. The weekly shows were a nice idea, but the problem with that is I was writing them to try and be funny, and I don't think I have that level of humour. I have a more sarcastic and dry wit that makes people laugh, rather than when I'm trying to be corny or cheesy, it just kind of makes people roll their eyes. So, but you don't want to do that, because then you're just coming across as a hateful, bitter git all the time, and that doesn't really serve anyone any purpose either. I'd like to be informative. I'd like to make things that make people chuckle, maybe, but I actually kind of want to go back to showing people what I can do in terms of, I want to open the door to people on things that they never knew about, and if they did know about, I want to open their eyes to certain things they didn't know about that topic. And so, the idea has been, I'll spend a week working on a script, and then the next week, I'll work on another script, and then the next week, I'll work on another script, and then the next week, I'll work on another script. And I've done that for the last month. I've done 4 scripts for 4 shows. And the level of detail and the level of thought that I've put into every single one of these is by far and away, I'm the most pleased with them of any that I've made. It's just about now how to translate all of this information into a digestible show. And I want to try and keep them to an hour. But at the same time, I don't know. We'll have to see how it all pans out. But the point is that I want to focus on the quality of that production first, before I start adding everything else in. So what you're going to see, and the reason why I wanted to do this as well is because, again, I don't really have anything controversial or meaningful to talk about in terms of current events. Sports is kind of taking care of itself right now. There's nothing that's in dire need. And I've been off Twitter and a lot of other social media sites for a while, because I've been busy with my own shit. And it's been kind of nice. So it's nice not to have to make these to talk about controversial subjects, especially considering that, with, you know, candidly, no one gives a shit about what I have to say about this shit. You make up your own minds, and that's fine. But as far as these things go, I want to get back to making things that I have a kick out of watching, and that more I have a kick out of making. And writing these scripts has been a blast, because it means I can go back to watching and playing things that I haven't watched and played in a long time. Hence the name Halcyon, going back to the Halcyon days, etc. And it's also been fun examining these things on a different level, intellectually and philosophically, because then I can give a different slant and a different take on things, and I can give information that I think people might have overlooked. And it's been nice to being able to go at that. So, not anytime soon, because like I say, I want to keep to one episode a week, because I think that's enough. And I want to continue to make things that probably follow more along the lines of gaming. I don't see myself doing any TV or movies for a while, just because, again, for content creators on YouTube, you must understand, trying to get anything approved with a movie or video, television show, anything copyrighted, is just becoming ridiculous. So if you stick to gaming, you're a little bit safer, and also you can vent some of your own experiences with a game as opposed to how you felt about a film. My most recent example of this was A Quiet Place, where I did rag on the film, admittedly, and that's been pinged for copyright, even though I used the majority of the footage from a free trailer that was released. And the only time that I used footage from the movie, I believe, was to highlight a moment. It's like an intro to the video. A weird claim, because it was manual, so clearly they'd watched that video, seen that it wasn't particularly negative, and all of the 15 people that watched it, who probably already have been to see it, considering it's been out a year, and have decided to not buy the DVD, or buy the DVD one way or the other, they felt that 15 people and the potential £150 worth of revenue that they've lost as a result of my video, or gained, one way or the other, you never know, it was worth taking it down. And I think that's kind of hilarious, to be perfectly honest, but it's more annoying because I like to keep my copyright strikes low. I combat every single one. I've won the majority of them. There's only a few that I've not chosen to pursue for one reason or another. But with gaming content, you're much safer. And I think with gaming, it opens the doors to other things. You can see the influences from one game to another. You can follow developers, publishers, trends, all these different things. It's much more fascinating to me than just watching a single movie and trying to deconstruct the artistic merits of whatever. So you'll see a lot more gaming related content on my channel, less of the social stuff. I find that now that I've stopped arguing with people all the time, that my life is somewhat more peaceful and serendipitous. It's the same in my job. I'm not a very confrontational person there anymore. And I find that my life has translated a bit better as a result, so you won't see much more combative stuff on my channel either. You may or may not be happy to hear that. So yeah, that's the main reason why I wanted to do this particular video, is just to really explain what I've been doing, because even though I've been on YouTube, I've been posting, I've not been on YouTube really for 3 months, because it's all already uploaded, it's already done. I might still make blinks, but they won't be called blinks anymore. I might still make Razor reviews, but they won't be called Razor reviews anymore. Everything is going to be called Halcyon from now on, so it's all going to look the same, it's all going to feel the same. It's just the difference is basically just the length. There's things that you can only talk about so much, and I'm not going to make... For instance, there's a few internet-based games from when I was a bit younger, back in the days when you were skipping IT class to go and play games on the computers, that I'll be reviewing. And of course, there's not a tremendous amount to talk about there, but I think there's stuff that is worth talking about and highlighting in terms of the wider ramifications. So you'll see a few of those, and you won't have to write off your day to watch them. So, as I've always done, I hope that people check them out. Something else that I'm probably going to start doing is I'm going to stop referencing other people's channels. The reason for this is I feel like I've done all I can in that respect. I feel like everyone that I've referenced so far has benefited or not, depending on what's happened to their channel, from my association. I feel like the next logical step would have been to collaborate on projects, and I have done with Defunct Games. And you can see me on his channel occasionally, sporadically, with a few videos that I've done with him. Albeit he's the star of that show, man. He's still the aspiration. He's still the goal. He's still the sensei. And a lot of the conversations with him in particular are what led to me to kind of redefining what I want to do with the channel, because I've kind of arrived at the conclusion that I don't really want to compete with anybody. I just want to make stuff that I think is cool. And that means getting more invested in the creative process and not worrying necessarily about what the reaction is going to be. It's about just making cool shit and hoping that that speaks for itself. And if it doesn't, then at least being confident in the fact that I can appreciate it. I know the level of work. I know the effort that it took to get this done. And hoping that other people can do the same. But yeah, as far as referencing, I feel like I'm almost piggybacking off them at this point. I feel like, just to reference a couple of people, Crow, who you've seen me reference on a number of occasions, he's doing great. GFY, if he's listening to this, I don't know if he does anymore. I know he's busy with being really, really ill, and I hope he's doing okay. His channel is actually outperforming mine, and I'm so stoked for him about that. I'm so happy for him. Who else? I always fuck this guy's name up, and I really apologize, dude. Melgalicious. I forget how it's spelled. Don't feel bad. Defunct Games. I was calling Defunct Gaming for the longest time. So honestly, if I can fuck up something that simple, don't take it personal. He's kicking ass as well. I feel like I'm forgetting. Bash Bros, movie reviews, they're killing it. I feel like I'm forgetting other people, but the point is that we're buds now. I tweet everybody. I check out everyone's videos. I don't see any other collaborations happening in the future, just because I think everyone's busy doing their own thing. And to be honest, that's the only thing that I'd be interested in doing aside from these long, detailed Halcyons right now, is just collaborating in other ideas. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. So it's a shame, because I'd be, I'm game for most things. But so yeah, in a nutshell, that's really what I wanted to talk about. I hope when they come out, you give them a chance. And I hope that whatever you're doing in your life right now, it's making you happy. You're staying warm, because it's fucking cold right now. And I hope that, I hope everything's good with you. And I hope that the lack of stress that I've been trying to manifest and manufacture over the last 6-7 weeks or so is the same with you. So, to wrap up, my name's been Lorne. This has been the Halcyon Show. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.